I don't know about you, but I love quick and easy DIYs that look high-end, projects that look like you purchased them from a store, that only take a couple of minutes to make. Hey there, if you're new, my name's Liz, and I'm super excited to share these simple and easy DIYs with you, so let's get started. For this DIY, I found this placemat at the Dollar Tree and instantly fell in love with it. It is so beautiful, and I knew I wanted to DIY with it, so I'm going to take this sign from Hobby Lobby. It's $12.99, but you can get it on sale for 40% off, which is what I did. I also grabbed these 3/8 by 36-inch square dowels. I picked up 2 of these from a local hardware store, and I am going to start measuring out the inside of my sign so that I can have a little border of these dowels inside my sign. So the reason I'm doing it this way is because if I tried to cut down that placemat, I'd have to get it as perfect as I possibly can so that it could fit inside my sign, and then you worry about whether you've gotten it completely straight. So by adding the frame on the inside, it's going to kind of cover up any kind of gaps or anything like that. So I just measured my dowels, cut them down using my miter shears, and I'm going to stain them in this lighter walnut color. I tried to find something that was as close to the original sign as possible. So I just take that stain and stain all 4 of my dowels. Now I'm going to measure the inside of my sign so I know about how wide I need that sign to be. I marked it with a pencil about where I would need to cut. I wanted to try to get those words as centered as best as I could. So I marked that, and then I just used my CRICUT paper cutter to cut this down, and it worked great. I did that on both sides, and then since the length was too long to fit inside there, I did just take a pair of scissors and kind of did some trimming until it fit inside my sign. And this is not going to go in the sign perfectly, but those wooden dowels will cover up any of those gaps. So I put some Mod Podge down onto the sign and spread that out with a paintbrush. I wasn't too worried about making the placemat stick fully to the sign this way because we are going to put those dowels on top, and that will also hold the placemat down in place. I'm going to add some wood glue super glue to all of my wooden dowels and slide those dowels into place on my sign. I did end up going back through with a finish nailer and some small nails and nailing the dowels to the sign itself just for a little bit more added security. But if you don't have a nailer, I don't think it's necessary. You can just use the glue. But for peace of mind, I just added those so I knew I had a piece that would last for a long time. And this is the way that it turned out. I think this is gorgeous. I think that this looks like a piece that you could have went and bought from the store, and it cost me probably around $15 to make with the sign and the wooden dowels and placemat. I think that is a fantastic price for how high-end this sign looks. Popping in here really quickly to thank everyone who has supported us and signed up for our monthly subscription box. Since we launched our now 3 boxes on April 1st, I have been super blown away by everybody's support. It means so much to us. I just wanted to let you know that we only have 10 more boxes for box number 3 for the month of April. So if you've been eyeing it, make sure to grab it before it's gone. In that box, you will get 2 wooden kits, a 6x6 paper pad, ephemera, and chipboard. If box number 3 is sold out though by the time you're seeing this, don't worry. We will have more slots available on May 1st, so make sure to sign up for the wait list so that you're notified when that becomes available, or just check back on May 1st. The link to sign up will be in the description box and comments below. For this DIY, I grabbed some paper that came from Hobby Lobby. You can get these paper pads at 50% off when they're on sale, and I liked this stack of black paper with all the different shiny designs on them. I grabbed this one out that had more of a florally design. I'm going to go ahead and tear the edges. Now, a follower recommended tearing my paper backwards with the white on top so that you didn't get as many white edges showing on the front. So thank you to that person who gave me that good tip. So I'm just going through and tearing all 4 of my sides. I'm not trying to take off a whole bunch of length, just more wanting that ripped look on my paper. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this sign that I also picked up from Hobby Lobby. It was $16.99 and then again 40% off of that. If you're somebody who doesn't have any power tools to make your own signs, I think buying these blank signs from Hobby Lobby is a really good way to DIY signs without having to make your own. So when I'm in a pinch, I like using these signs to DIY instead of making my own. I'm going to start by putting a layer of Mod Podge over the entire thing. I didn't go quite all the way to the corners because my paper isn't as big. You are still going to see some of that wood underneath. I'm going to let that Mod Podge completely dry and then set my paper right on top. I'm going to place some parchment paper on top of my paper. I grabbed my mini heat press from CRICUT and turned it all the way on high, and we are going to go over that paper. This is reactivating the Mod Podge and making it so my paper doesn't wrinkle. In fact, I did this DIY twice. I tried it without doing this method the first time, and my paper just wrinkled all up, and it was a mess. So this is the second time around that I'm doing it, and I decided to do it this way first. So I have my paper and it is completely wrinkle free and stuck to my sign. I'm going to take this transfer from Couture. I'm going to use 2 of the images out of here. The first one, I'm going to do these wildflowers, and I'm using my bright white chalk paste. I'm just going over all the flowers. I didn't go over the words that are on the bottom of this. I just wanted the flowers only. And I actually didn't end up putting any kind of wax or anything on it, and this worked really well. This paper took the paste really well, and I had very minimal bleeding. I also grabbed the transfer that says "You belong among the wildflowers." I centered that in the middle as best as I could, and then went over it again with my bright white chalk paste, and then lifted up the transfer, and I repeated the flowers on top just like we did on the bottom. And that is it for this DIY. I think this looks beautiful. I love the way that it turned out. I think this is something you could leave up all year round, and I love the rustic browns and blacks and the white. And besides having to do it 2 times, I learned from my mistakes. The second go around was fairly easy to make, and I think it turned out really pretty. For this DIY, I grabbed 2 of these paper mache planters that you can get from Hobby Lobby. They were $1.99, and I loved the look of the paper. I feel like it looks like plant starters, which is kind of what I was going for. I decided to distress this, add some paint using a chip brush and my Waverly chalk paint in white, and I'm just going over the entire thing. I wanted the brown from the paper to pop through and to have it look kind of like an old rustic pot. So I just took my chip brush and went around the entire thing for both of my planters. I'm going to print out some images on some tissue paper. So to do that, I'm taking my tissue paper and sizing it down to the size of a piece of regular printer paper. You want it just a tad bit smaller than that, just so that you can tape your edges to your printer paper, and I try to smooth out any kind of wrinkles as best as I can and place some washi tape down to hold it all in place. The side that is going to feed into your printer, you want to make sure that you tape the entire bottom just so that your tissue paper doesn't rip or get caught in the printer at all. So I'm just going to tape it like this and feed it through my printer. I printed these images out from Creative Fabrica. I just measured how tall I would need them on my planter and printed them out. I'm going to rip the edges of the tissue paper so that I have more of that ripped edge look, and I feel like it also helps blend in with your pieces when the edges are ripped versus if I just cut them out. I don't know if that's just my personal opinion maybe. So once I have all the edges ripped, I took a little bit of Mod Podge on a foam brush and brushed it along the back of my tissue paper very gently to make sure that I didn't end up ripping the image in any way. And then once it was on the planter itself, I took that foam brush with just a little bit of Mod Podge and went over all the edges, went over the bottom portion that didn't get any Mod Podge on it, and just very gently and carefully attached my tissue paper to the pot. And I did this for both of my planters, and I think that they turned out so cute. I also think adding a little bit of brown around it to make it look like dirt on the planter would also be really pretty, just to kind of make it look a little bit more old and worn. And that's it. This is all you got to do for this one. I love how it turned out. I've been loving printing on tissue paper lately and decoupaging. It's definitely becoming a favorite of mine. I'll have those images linked down below so that if you want them, you can find them easily. For this DIY, I grabbed these two tags from the Dollar Tree. This bunny napkin came from TJ Maxx. I thought this was so beautiful. I love the bunny, and I asked you guys on Instagram and Facebook if I should still use it in some DIYs, even though Easter was over, and you all said yes, so here it is. I'm going to take those tags, add a layer of Mod Podge onto both of them, and I just spread those out. I'm going to let them completely dry because we're going to be doing the iron-on method, which has quickly become a favorite of mine, and I feel like one of the easiest ways to make sure that you're not getting any wrinkles in your paper or napkins or whatever it is that you're using. I know there are so many different methods out there. I want to try the saran wrap one. I just haven't yet, so I'm just going to stick with what I know works for me at the moment, and I'm going to pull apart my napkin, make sure that I only have the one ply that's going down onto my piece. I just centered that onto one of the tags, added some parchment paper on top, and then using my mini heat press from CRICUT all the way on high to reactivate that Mod Podge. I like starting in the middle and then working my way out to make sure I'm not getting any bubbles or wrinkles in my piece. I had a lot of people ask if you could use a regular household iron, and you definitely can. This is just more convenient for me because of how small it is and I can store it in my craft room. For the other tag, I'm going to use some paper that comes from my website, moorevinyldecals.com. All of my paper for the month of April is all on sale. I'll have it linked below, but any kind of paper pads, single papers like this, stickers, stencils, all the fun things, those are all on sale for the month of April. So if you want to check it out, I'll have it linked below, but we're going to do the same technique that we did with the napkin, just adding that paper on top and then putting my mini heat press on top of it to reactivate that Mod Podge, and I was wrinkle free, which is amazing because I normally don't like using Mod Podge. I normally just like using a glue stick, and even that has some problems sometimes, and this method worked so well for this. So I'm really excited because this will make my life so much easier when I'm wanting to put paper on things. I just cut off the excess using an X-Acto knife, and then I'm taking a piece of sandpaper to the napkin and I am sanding off all of those edges that are hanging over. I'm going to layer these on top of each other using some hot glue. I just put the bunny on top of the other tag and kind of put it a little bit at an angle so that the bottom corners were matching up. I strung some twine through the holes at the top, and then to finish it off, I added a little bit of distressing around all the corners just using my Waverly Wax and Antique. You could leave it as is, but I personally like things to look a little bit more weathered, and I feel like it has a little bit more dimension to it when I do it this way. But that's all you got to do. I think this is so pretty hanging in the middle of a wreath, or you could just set it on a shelf, whatever you want to do with it, but I think it's really pretty and I love these colors for spring. It just makes everything feel so cheery and bright, and plus that bunny is absolutely adorable. For For this DIY, we are going to grab a 12-inch embroidery hoop. I found some fabric at Hobby Lobby. I loved this so much. The colors, the birds, the bees, the beehives, just everything about it. I loved it. So I'm going to cut this down. I'm going to iron it out as best as I can. I'm just using my mini heat press, not an actual iron, but it did do the trick to get most of the wrinkles out. And then I will add my fabric to my embroidery hoop. I just kind of slipped that back piece underneath and added that in, tightened my embroidery hoop as much as I could, and I pulled on the fabric to make everything nice and tight. And then for any of those overhanging bits, you can cut off. I was tempted to leave it. I kind of almost liked the look of having the extra hanging fabric on the back. Let me know, would you have cut it off or would you have left the extra fabric on the back? I'm going to take a little sprig of some lamb's ear that I had, and then a little piece of some baby's breath. I glued those together. I also took some burlap ribbon that I had from Dollar Tree. I'm going to take the ends and glue them together just so the ends don't come apart. I used a pipe cleaner to squish it all in the middle, make it look like a bow. I ended up going over it with twine anyway, so you can kind of skip that step if you want to. I took this other ribbon that I got from Hobby Lobby. It has a velvet feel to one side, which I loved. I just tied this in a really simple bow by taking 2 loops and tying them together. Any of the wrong sides that came forward, I just flipped around so all the right sides were facing correctly, and then added the twine to the burlap bow around the middle, and then I will glue the top bow to the burlap bow so that they are layered together. I added some glue to the greenery stems to the back of the bow, and I glued those together. Lastly, I'll just glue the bow to the top of my embroidery hoop, and that is it for this one. I think this turned out super pretty. Again, I'm loving the bees and just the look of this fabric. I just love it so much. I think it's so gorgeous. I'm definitely going to be using more of it in the future. I'll probably feature it in a bee video that I have coming up in the next little bit, and I just think it's so pretty. So that's it for this one. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. For this DIY, I grabbed this letter M. This came from Michael's, and I want to say it was maybe $3-ish. I'm going to start by painting it with my Waverly chalk paint in Truffle, and I gave the entire thing one good coat. I wanted to do the crackle effect on this piece, so I added some Elmer's glue on first, and then before that dried, I'm adding my white Waverly chalk paint on second. I'm trying to do this in as little strokes as possible. I actually ended up doing this on another project, and I've done this before and have it turned out really well, but for my other project, the glue ended up being really stringy. Has anybody else had that happen to them as you're painting on your paint on top of the glue, but it just pulled up, was really stringy. I don't know what happened. So if you have any ideas, maybe I added too much glue or let it sit for too long. I have no idea. I feel like I was pretty fast, but I'm not sure what happened. But to do this, you just add your Elmer's glue. First, you brush that on, and then you add your paint on top. And you want to make sure that you're doing it before the Elmer's glue dries. So I just kind of did this M in sections. I didn't have any issues with this one. This one turned out really great. But for the other project that I was doing, it just completely was a disaster. And I ended up having to throw it away. So let me know if you've ever had any issues with that. To get your crackle look though, you'll want to make sure that you heat it up using your heat gun, and that is what's going to give you that crackle look. I know that this was kind of everywhere. Didn't explain it really well. I'll have a couple of videos linked down below where I do it and it turns out really well, and I explain it a whole lot better, but I was just curious if anybody has ever had those issues like I experienced. Now for the top of my M, I'm going to add a layer of Mod Podge. I just brush that on, and we are going to let it completely dry because we are going to go in with another napkin for this one. I found these napkins at Hobby Lobby. I'm going to pull the back ply off and then lay my napkin down on top of my piece, add my parchment paper on top, and then I'm using my mini heat press to reactivate that Mod Podge. And I am going to just try my best to make sure that I'm not getting any wrinkles onto my letter M. And I'm just going around the entire thing until it's all nice and stuck down to my M. I'll go through with some sandpaper to remove all of the excess napkin around my piece. Everybody mentioned using a nail file for the small little slats and hard to reach places. I'm definitely going to do that. I just have to go buy one first. So in the meantime, I'm going to use my sandpaper to sand off all of the excess, and that is it for this one. I think this is super cute. I can leave it up all year long, and it's a fun piece to have in my home. And that's it for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Let me know which project was your favorite in the comments down below. I think these projects were so much fun. The very first one with the truck and in the sign, I love it so much. It's definitely going to be something that stays in my home and is used all year long because I just think it is so gorgeous. Could you believe that it's a Dollar Tree placemat? If you guys enjoy my DIYs, don't forget to subscribe, become a part of our little crafty family here on YouTube. Give this video a big thumbs up. It really helps out my channel to grow, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!